Welcome to the Cosmic Concept. Cosmic
Concepts.
Welcome to the Cosmic Concept. And for today's episode, we are going to be doing a topic that Tegu has for us. So she is going to introduce the topic. It's very important, obviously. These most important thing for you to know today.
The mic.
So,
all right, welcome back. It is your host, Tegu Lashaw and Ogenyang.
Yes.
Who touches grass?
OG, I touched grass. So.
Yeah. So for today's episode, it's gonna be a fun one. Today we are talking about panties being on too tight, and I will explain. Okay, so as I was driving, I've been doing this whole dancing thing, getting that career started. And I'm driving, I'm like, my underwear seems to be too tight. And I go throughout my day, whatever's happening. Excuse all the family that's watching. Just bear with me here. I'm not getting into nothing that's explicit. Okay. And I get to work, whatever, I do my thing, and I'm like, oh my gosh, this underwear is really tight. And then I get to the park, and I'm sitting for a while. And then the download hits me. Sometimes you don't really realize how much you've grown until what you're in is uncomfortable. And I found this topic to be very important for people that are always on the go. You're always striving for growth. You're always looking to be closer to your highest self. You're always looking to encourage someone to their highest selves. But how many times do you stop and change your underwear? No. How many times do you stop and say, wait a minute, I think I've outgrown where I think I am. I need to test to see where I'm actually at. And as we're always moving, always doing things, life changes, spirit moves quickly. It's important for us to take those breaks and really reassess. I guess another example I can give is in my dance classes. Sometimes I'll be in a beginning level of hip hop. I've been dancing since I was 14. Girl, you've kind of grown past beginner. And then now the step is to go into advanced. Now I get to test to see, okay, where am I actually at? Because right now I'm doing stuff that's easy. And a lot of times I think we like to keep doing the stuff that's easy to say we're great. We're good at it. You can do the easy stuff and be like, I'm the coldest. But how often are we challenging ourselves at the things that we haven't done before to be humble enough to say, nah, I need to grow in this. I need to take my time to work to this level. And so that is the conversation we'll be having today.
So I guess as you listen to us, as always,
reflect.
See how this applies to you, because to an extent, we're just talking about life.
Yeah.
This applies to everybody, and we're just gonna bring different examples up, try to do more of that this time around, just to really ground this. But I do also, when just hearing the topic, I think we're gonna definitely go and touch a lot on what it means to change for the positive, and those discomforts, where those discomforts are going to be. Knowing that it's not just every time you feel uncomfortable with something, but there's a certain type of discomfort when you know that you're not supposed to be doing this anymore. When you realize how you've outgrown something, something used to suit you and you could just do it every single day, feel no problems. But as you grow in your emotional journey, your spiritual journey, you will be able to feel more. And as you learn, you become able to feel more. Now you could feel those areas that something feels tight. Not because it wasn't tight before, not because it wasn't uncomfortable before, but because you have now allowed yourself to feel enough to be able to feel where it is uncomfortable.
Your awareness has expanded. Your consciousness or your unconsciousness is now turning into more consciousness of the self.
And along with consciousness comes recognizing things that you're no longer numb in places. Mm-hmm. And you might hurt where you didn't hurt before. Mm-hmm. Concept. It's very simple, right? Sometimes this is also the same discomfort that keeps us from wanting to go deeper. This is the same, like, you might be somebody who every single day, every single night, you want to drown your mind with alcohol, but when a few nights you decide, I'm gonna be sober tonight, and you feel a discomfort in that. You might feel, I'm thinking too much, I don't want to be thinking about this stuff, and because of that you were pushed back into it. Or maybe you want to try not smoking weed today, and all of a sudden you're not calm, you're feeling anxious and all of that. These are the feelings that you've known, and today we're just going to talk about moving through that, moving past that, and allowing yourself to go deeper. Nobody's stopping you. No.
Yeah, I just want to pass the mic on that. So I guess an example for me would be not recognizing self-worth or growth. Mm-hmm. Because so when you're in a state of not really seeing who you are, not even in a way, not even believing who you are, because I find the faultier we are at believing things are working out for us, it's going to be harder for us to see our self-worth. And I say make that connection because if we already don't believe we are worthy of a good life or worthy of a life that we can be accountable for, then we're always going to feel like we're not enough. It's always going to be something in our heads that's telling us, you're not really at that level yet. You're not really able to do that, what they call imposter syndrome. A lot of creatives feel imposter syndrome, and it's not because they can't do it, but they have a part of them has believed themselves to not be capable of doing such. And if you are trying to battle a mindset that has already made its frequency to be against you, and you believe some of that, you're always going to feel like an imposter. But the deeper you go in who you are and the feeling of who you are, that worth starts to grow. Yeah. And that imposter syndrome starts to become less. And this is where that panties are too tight, because at one point it's like, again, it's not explicit now, it's still kid friendly. My booty ain't growing like that. It ain't doing that much. But my physical reality is saying, no, girl, it's time to level up. You may not be at, Meg Thee Stallion level, but you're getting, you working. So.
Yeah, I'm working.
And right. And on top of that, I'm working hard. And they be having me sweating up in that gym.
Congratulations.
But thank you, baby. But it's just that kind of thing of like, why are you questioning your reality? Clearly, you're at your reality. You're at the stage to start being on stage. People are contacting you because it's time for you to start rapping for them. It's time for you to start painting at these museums. It's time for you to start moving in your craft. Why are you still questioning, am I worth it? Yeah. Your reality is going to match up to where God sees you fit to be. So this is where we start to, lower that imposter syndrome. Because to a point now, I feel like whenever we start to make that imposter syndrome voice become smaller, am I worth doing it? And you start to change that mindset into, is this time that I'm willing to put into this? It becomes less about your external. Am I worth, or not less about your external? It kind of crosses out that worth. And instead now it's, is this worth my time? Is this something that I'm willing to put energy into? Is this going to move me in a place that I would like to be in? Does this feel aligned for me? And stop questioning, is this actually, or not, am I worth this opportunity? Yeah. Or am I worth this reality? Because it wouldn't be there if you're not.
Yeah. And I think when it comes to growth, it's important to know that it is personal growth. It is personal. And a lot of the times, what hinders that growth, because we want to keep these same, clothing that's just a smaller size. The growth is hindered because a lot of the times we're looking at somebody else's size. A lot of the times we're trying to fit ourselves into something that doesn't fit us in the first place. So it could be those panties, they just don't fit you in the first place, and those aren't your panties. You're looking at somebody else to gauge where you should be at in your own journey. And once that comparison starts, that's when the imposter syndrome comes in. Because if you're always looking outside of yourself for what you should be, you're never going to find it, because you're supposed to be looking right here. I can't judge who I am based on that person and that person and that person, based on how they look and where they're at. I need to judge who I am based on who I am. Because if I try to put that person's shirt on, it's not going to fit me. And then I'll be like, man, I don't know if I fit in here. That imposter syndrome is a sign that you are trying to be somebody else. It's called imposter syndrome, because it's a symptom of you being an imposter. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You're playing the role of somebody else. Of course you're going to feel imposter syndrome, because it's not you. But
the way you may be trying to do it, may be trying to cater to how somebody else does it, because you want to be seen as that. So like if I'm trying to, the way that I speak, if I'm trying to sound in a way that's sounding like them, like you said, it's going to sound like I'm being an imposter. Now I'm not even catering to the audience God has placed for me to cater to, not even cater to heal and to be with, because you're trying to take on an energy of somebody else. And they have a specific frequency that they have to have in order to contact the people God is going to call them to contact. You have something specific that God needs you to be in, which is why there's only one of you. You have a specific energy you need to be in for you to contact the people that really need you. And that's why imposter syndrome has to die, because the more you're trying to be like something else, somebody else, or to play a role or to play a character, you're actually hurting the community that really needs you right now. And that's the seriousness of this aspect.
That's where the growth starts. The moment you realize the moment you stop trying to fit into what everybody else is doing. Say if you're in if you're in a certain friend group and you guys are doing maybe you guys have to go out and party every night. You guys are, and that's just the way you guys do things, right? A lot of people get swept into that lifestyle because that's what they've seen and that's what people have told them. This is what cool people do. This is what people who are societally accepted do. At some point we've all had that idea of like, oh yeah, popping bottles at the club, looking like, you know what I'm saying? But that's what gets people into doing that. But then when you start growing into yourself and stop trying to be what everyone else starts being, you start realizing you start outgrowing certain behaviors, and it starts fitting weird. That's when you realize this actually doesn't fit me. This piece of clothing doesn't actually fit me anymore, because it was never really you. And as you grow into yourself, you realize you are much bigger than that piece of clothing ever offered. You realize, oh man, I'm much cooler than popping bottles at the club. I might have thought that is the image. I'm sure we all can, as young black men, I think we could all look back at our childhood and have like a time in our lives when we used to look at somebody like, I don't know, name said rapper with how many baby mamas, and be like, that is the ideal of coolness. And as you grow healthily in your own, as I grow, I look at the rappers now and I'm like, I don't want to be like them. I am, I'm not in that place, and you realize that only as you allow yourself to be yourself. You know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah, I like how you went into that. I feel like the aspect of the loneliness that people talk about is, oh, it's lonely when you start to get right. It's lonely because there's a version of you that's still trying to attach yourself to that. And there's a version of you that is on the opposite side. And you sit in between that.
Yeah. Crossroads.
And so the loneliness is that choice that you have to keep making. And you feel like nobody understands it, but the more you talk to your community about it, they do. They understand having to choose something else to better yourself and having people fall off. Like, it's not, I feel like after a certain point, it's not even something that has to keep being said. Like, oh, I'm losing people because I'm doing the right thing. It's no longer really about that. It's just about how much am I willing to root for myself to keep growing. So the people that go, it should always be in the mindset of, I pray I was able to do something or inspire them in a way that can help them see where they are and grow from there. But when we start choosing to do what is right for our spirit,
they'll leave you. A lot of them will just leave you.
Right. It won't even have to be a choice that you have to make. Yeah. They're just like, I want to hang with her. They not cool. She not cool no more.
Yeah.
Like for me in college, I would always be so confused about this because I felt like I was always so friendly to everybody, but it didn't really feel like anybody was my friend. And like, it would be times where I am literally talking in the midst of all these people. And it was like, no, like they were just ignoring me. That's what it felt like for me. You know, they could have a different perspective, but I would quite literally be like the only person talking and nobody would say anything. And I realized in the conversations that I was saying, it was because I was disagreeing with where they were at, or I had an opinion that wasn't rooting for, you know, the concept that they were wanting as far as just how we should move the community. Like, I'm not in agreement to having a party with this kind of theme. I feel like if we really want to bring it back, we should do it like this and bring the community in like this. And that opinion, exactly. Here she go. That's what I felt like. Like the energy was just, here she go again. And I can say that did feel lonely. Seeing that you can be in that presence and nobody wants to hear you.
Yeah.
That I feel like is the lonely part when you're in community and the community is going against you.
It is and that's the part of being in that shadow community.
Yeah.
If you're in because you will feel lonely, and that's where you start feeling the uncomfortableness of your clothing.
Yeah.
Because now you realize
this ain't working for me.
You know, these people, like, you're not going to.
I was gonna add, in that uncomfortableness, you start getting deeper in how you're feeling around this thing. So you can no longer run from your emotion of where you truly are. And I think that is the biggest thing. As lonely as we may feel, I think it's a good thing because now you're seeing how you are actually feeling, how you've probably been feeling the whole time you've been around this vibration or been around this environment. And so at the same time, there's loneliness. I think the perspective that we can add to that is gratitude, because at one point you weren't even able to feel how lonely you already were. Because it's not that you're just all of a sudden lonely because you're having a change. Yeah. You are already lonely, but now you realize how lonely you have been since you've been here. And that's that depth of feeling we're talking about, where the deeper you go in how you're feeling and in your emotions, you'll start to notice the pains that were already there.
And it's like the same if you have like a friendship that is rooted in the shadow. Not that you'll leave this person, but the moment that you start inching out of that, and especially if it's like a trauma bond or whatever, you know, the moment you start inching out of it is the moment that you, like, inching out of that shadow, start, you know, talking about more positive things. A lot of people start realizing that, okay, this friend's not actually interested in this version of me. This friend starts growing disinterested. And to you, that would feel lonely, but you didn't realize, but that's not because it hasn't always been there. Because what's happening is you're starting to share more of your happiness and your love with this friend, but this friend is not interested because what you've been sharing in the past is not that. So you're thinking this friend doesn't love you anymore. But you guys have never, the base of the conversation, the base of the relationship has never been rooted in love. So once you start showing that love and being in you know what I'm saying? You start feeling like, you start seeing the emptiness of love in that situation. And then you start noticing the silence when it comes to the things that you really love, and not just the loudness that comes to things that you hate. And in that silence, you start feeling lonely, but it just shows you where you're at. It doesn't mean, leave your friend and all of that, but the disinterest could lead to your friend, those clothes shedding off you, no longer fitting you, and your friend's just going to be like, okay, I don't want to do this anymore. Because you're no longer interested in that. They came for a certain aspect of you. They came to get something out of you. And once you stop giving them that level of destruction, unless they're willing to grow with you, they're probably going to leave you as well. And that's just one of the aspects of how your growth can affect other people, and how your growth can be hindered when you are so attached to what you have. Because what you have is going to have to change. You're so attached to the item of clothing.
And I want to add in encouragement to keep going. Don't make U-turns. If that chapter is closing, let it close. Because 9 times out of 10, it's something greater that's about to happen. Now, like he said, if that friend is willing to grow with you in that, don't just be out here cutting people off who are trying to come up with you. Like, if that's a friend, they're going to be willing to, they may have some resistance at the beginning, but they will begin to grow with you. Now, if it's somebody that is truly outwardly against you, okay, cut them off. But also be mindful and discerning of the people around you who do genuinely care for you and want to understand that version of you. But it's also the first time they're seeing this version of you. So be mindful of grace, the grace that you give people and the patience that you give them to even, again, just like it's the new version of you, it's also a new version of you for them. So allow people to
be careful with the cutting people off aspect, because if you have a friend and you guys are always going out to a certain place together, then you don't want to go to that place. If they have further interest in you as a person, they would be interested in, maybe let's do this instead, let's do this instead. But if you don't want to do certain things anymore, and they don't want to do it, they'll naturally just fall off. They will not be with you anymore. But there's a difference in having people just go away because you're no longer giving them anything. But if they're still wanting to pursue a relationship with you, even when you've told them, oh, I'm not with this shadow aspect, I don't want to do this anymore because it's bad for me, and all of that, and they respect that enough to still be like, well, I still want to pursue a relationship. Even if they do have certain aspects that are still toxic and you're trying to get away from, it shows that friend still has love for you. That is not rooted in the shadow. If their love is if all they have for you is rooted in the shadow, then they will cut themselves off because you mean nothing past that. But if they have love for you that is beyond that, maybe you're not going to be hanging out with them all the time.
Right.
But keep them in, your thoughts and your prayers.
Right.
Keep, if they call you, you could pick up.
Answer, them, Give grace, give patience. You don't want to be somebody, and I've been to somebody where I'm like, I don't do this no more. And the people that do it, I ain't with you. And it's kind of like, you start to grow, and it's like, did I really have to act like that? Like, I wish I would have given the amount of people that give me grace and patience and where I'm at. I wish I could have went back and gave that to them, because everybody is deserving of grace and patience from each other. Like, we're all just trying to grow. So I did want to get into the discomfort of now we're feeling the discomfort of the community, but what is the discomfort when you realize you should no longer be doing the things that you're doing? And how is that conversation in our heads? How is that mental journey for us?
Internalizing.
Yes.
We started with how it feels with the community. Now we're talking about our internalized discomfort, our, you know.
So, I guess I'll be the one to talk about it. I'll talk about disagreements.
Okay.
Yeah, since we had 3 today, I feel like that's a good growth moment. Oh. So the discomfort that we feel internally, right? For me, I would say growing has to be disagreements, dealing with people who have conflicted opinions on my experience. And in the beginning, the mindset is like, how are you going to tell me what I'm feeling, what I'm thinking, what I'm experiencing is wrong? And whenever I would come into contact with that energy, it would make me feel like, am I just lying? Am I not feeling right? You know, and that was coming from a shadow perspective of not feeling like, you know, where I'm at is enough. This is all of who I am. And it would take a lot of community engagement, honestly. But as I'm growing through the no longer lashing out as bad as I would, like no longer allowing anger to just like blind me at a certain point and just take me all the way out of the game where I cannot re-regulate myself and come back to it. All of that was very challenging and uncomfortable. And I think the most uncomfortable part of it is always that you're aware of what's happening. I knew that I had the choice to act out in anger or just stay silent until I was regulated enough to say what I was feeling without being spiteful. And it's uncomfortable when you are not at a point of growth where that's no longer even a question. I think it's the most uncomfortable when you're still in the midst of growing out of it, because that version of you is still very much there. The one of me that wants to just lash out is still right next to me, just as a version of me that knows now how to handle things is also right here. It's literally like the devil and the angel on your shoulder. And it's uncomfortable to be in the shadow part and lash out, but it's also uncomfortable to choose the right thing. Because in choosing the right thing, I now have to disagree with the version of me that doesn't want to do that. And that version of me just becomes louder because it's like, nah, we used to doing it like this. We used to doing talking like this, because what you're not going to do is question me. And then the version of me is like, okay, well, people can question you, but you can stand on business at the same time. If this is how you feel, be open to hearing their thoughts and opinions too, and understand their perspective, but you don't have to shut down because somebody disagrees. And so it's like when you're growing and going through that, it can be tough. It's very uncomfortable. That type of emotional growth is extremely uncomfortable. I don't even know nothing that's more uncomfortable than that. It's a lot of growth that we got to do in this journey, but intelligence, regulation is probably one of the hardest battles, because it's literally the battle of your spirit. Your will to be in control, or your will to become controlled.
Yeah, I could talk about, like for me, like my battle with like, you know, consuming doomerist videos on like YouTube, just like state of the society type things, and just like for me, or it's like I feel the discomfort when I'm doing those things. You know, that's when I feel like, oh, this is like, and the more that I get into my life, the more and more I feel it. So like, whereas years ago when I used to
just binge watch,
I'll go to work and I'll just binge listen to just true crime after true crime, murder mystery after murder mystery, all of that stuff. I'll just keep listening over and over and over and over and over. And I became desensitized to that. You know, to an extent, I was just like, okay, well, this is normal. But then the mindsets that came out of it, because in all the things, I'm just seeing detestable human behavior, you know, and I'm also desensitizing myself to, these are human beings. I should feel sad about this stuff, right? And as I began to grow in my journey, you know, interact with the community more, very important for growth. The more I started listening to that stuff, and I would start feeling bad for the people more and more. And that made it harder for me to listen to it. And then it's gone to a point now where like I can't even I realize how I'm frustrating myself in that moment. Not just in feeling bad for the people, but a part of me, like my shadow, loves having that feeling of, see, I was right about this about people. But all of those things are just things that frustrate me about people. And so like these days I could start watching, some video on like society or whatever. I don't even touch true crime anymore. But I could start watching a video on society and suddenly I'm like, oh yeah, I really actually don't like watching these videos. But when we're in our shadow, that feeling is, oh, we like the feeling of feeling correct in this way. We are so fixated on the being correct that we don't even realize how we don't actually like what we're correct in, what we think we're correct in. And the more that I've grown out of that, the more that I have disdain for that content. And it's really helped, but you can't have that until you allow yourself to grow. Because if I just accepted, I wanted to stay there, then I won't feel that same disdain. And then when dealing with you or other people, I still would lack that level of emotional connection because I'm taking it away when I do those things. So, that's just my personal example. I hope that made sense.
Yeah. And I think as we get into solutions, which throughout this whole thing we're encouraging, but is to just always question, like, and maybe not always, but in the things that you feel like are becoming more challenging, question your perspective on it. Like, is me lashing out really the right thing? Like, I understand I have a perspective that I need to give, but is being upset that this perspective is being challenged helping me? At the end of the day, is this taking more emotional energy than if I am to just allow it? Is me sitting and doom scrolling and mindlessly watching YouTube all the time really helping me to get to where I want to go? Is this helping me to connect with other people around me? Or is this an escape? Is this something that I'm doing that's making me small? I don't remember what exactly. There was this coach that I ran across, and he was saying, to an extent, you're always going to want to choose the lowest version of yourself. The battle is choosing the highest version of yourself and allowing you to make a habit out of that. And that really stuck with me, because we will. If we want to be complacent and we want life to be easy for the shadow, we'll just say yes to anything that we know is harmful to us. Oh yeah, I want to go out and party, even though I've had work, I've had to do this, I've had to do that. I'm really burned out, but my shadow wants to feel some sort of connection.
Because that's the closest way to instant gratification.
So I'm going to go and do this. So instead of being at the will of instant gratification, which this society makes very easy.
Yeah.
I mean, quite literally, I don't know how we go from herbs to now they making pens, to now they're making nicotine. What is it? There's like little games on the nicotine things. Yeah. It's like how much more apparent can their will to make you disconnected be? Now they're mixing games with nicotine. Crazy work. Yeah. That's crazy work. So now it's that battle of, are we willing, when we ask these questions to ourselves, are you in a state of wanting to be instantly gratified? Or are you at a state of wanting to have that long-term peace and ease? Because your growth is going to get you to peace and ease, but it's going to also get rid of that instant gratification.
And that's the only way the devil can win. Right. And that's why it's an obvious game. Because it's always easy to say, well, I can do the good thing tomorrow. Right now,
I'll start over.
It's comfortable.
I'll start over. Start tomorrow. I'll start over tomorrow.
I'll start tomorrow. Because as long as the good thing is something that's not immediately apparent, we tend to want to, the less we can see, the less immediately apparent that the good thing's going to be. The more you can see, you realize that the good thing is, the more you can see and appreciate the moment you're in, the more you can see the good thing is actually in this moment. But when you're so blinded, you can't see what's right in front of you. The only thing you see as being in this moment is that instant gratification thing. And so you delay the good thing. So the further you are from being able to be in the moment, the further the good is going to seem to you. But like for solutions, you know, I think it's that really questioning yourself, as in what am I feeling? Getting into your feelings, getting into why am I feeling like this? Is this something that I'm want? Like, why are you holding on to this discomfort? We all feel the discomfort, right? No matter what we're doing, as long as we have issues in our life, there's going to be some level of discomfort. But when you feel that discomfort, you realize what it's telling you by really asking yourself where it's coming from. You know, am I feeling scared of something? If that's the discomfort, and the discomfort is rooted in fear, then unless some obvious things, the discomfort is probably something that is pushing you away from growth. But if the discomfort is rooted in something that, you know, something more of like, what kind of discomfort comes? Like, maybe you're not getting that gratification at that moment. Discomfort as in you feel like, oh, right now I'm not getting stimulated enough.
I didn't smoke 3 times today and I'm still at the same space of being tired.
Yeah. You know, if the discomfort you're feeling is anxiety or something along the lines of you not getting that instant gratification, then you probably are, then that's a sign from where you might need to grow. I didn't put that well, but basically you really want to know how you're feeling. How you're feeling is going to guide you as to when discomfort is there to keep you away from something, or when discomfort is there as a sign that you are inside of something that you need to get out of. You need to know if you're in the pot or you're walking into the pot,
right?
You know,
a good reflection. I always like to think of the 3. Well, I don't know if it's 3. I'm gonna list them off because I really don't know how many it is. But I always like to engage in, okay, is there any way that I'm making myself feel constricted in my relationships, in sexual activity, in financial activity, in emotional activity? Is there anything here? Because again, the devil's going to lie in a lot of the worldly things: sexual gratification, in financial gratification, in relationships. If you find yourself trying to be with other people so much that you don't even have time to check where you're at, all of these different things. Am I consistently being aware of where I'm at in every space? And if you can say you're aware in every space and you're mindful of when you're in your shadow in each space, I think that'll be a good mark to help you figure out where you are in your growth.
And also, it just came to my mind when you said that, because it kind of led to what I was trying to say. At the end of the day, are you shrinking or making yourself grow? Because we're talking about your clothes are too tight, right? You need to recognize if your clothes are too tight, or you need to recognize if you are making yourself smaller in that moment to fit into some clothes that are tight, or if you are trying to grow and that's making the clothes feel tight. And everything's going to come down to something that is, are you making yourself smaller or bigger? An example of that is like, is it you saying something, you believing or wanting to believe something that is limiting your potential? That may not be true. Or is it because you are wanting to believe something that is expanding your potential? If your discomfort is coming because you want to believe something that's expanding your potential, and it is no longer allowing for certain things to be in the same position that it was before, but as far as inside of you, it's because you're like, there is more that I can feel. You know, especially with the emotions. There's more that I can feel. There's more accountability I can take. I am bigger than this. Then it's a sign you're growing. But if it's, I don't think I can do this, I don't want to do this, it is a sign that, and that's why you're uncomfortable. It is a sign that you are refusing to take that that's where the discomfort, I guess it's both the same thing. It's as far as like two aspects of the same thing. When you are growing, there's a part of you that says, that's too big for me. I am small right now, and I don't want to be able to take that level of emotional growth. So there's a part of you, your shadow, is going to make you feel smaller at that moment, is going to try to convince you that you're smaller. Your light is going to be convincing you that I am bigger than this. I am bigger. So it's going to want to expand or shrink every time you're at those moments. I hope that makes sense.
Stay aware of where you're at and have those markers and have those emotional reflections is going to be what takes you to the places that you need to go. And whenever you are able to be honest about where you're at, because it is going to be times where you are at a space of wanting to grow even more. And environment sometimes is going to be what's shrinking you. Not all the time is it just you. It can be most of the times God is going to put you in places where you have to outgrow. And so it is going to be up to you to figure out if this environment is still allowing you to grow, or if this environment is giving you more than what you actually need to be taking on. Because struggle or suffering is a choice. But you're in an environment that is very conflict oriented, very stressful, not because the care isn't there or is there, but because the care is not there. That is a space where you have to grow out of and say, that's it. Enough is enough. And that's also an aspect of outgrowing. So I feel like, yes, it can be in a space of your shadow trying to make you shrink, but also your light can recognize when something is also being restricting. I think the light is typically what's telling you this is no longer for you. Let's move forward.
Yeah.
So
depended on the situation, obviously, but the light doesn't. If you feel like you got to run away from it, that's your shadow.
Yeah.
The light doesn't run away from things.
Mm-hmm. It walks away.
It walks in its path.
Mm-hmm.
It's if I'm going this way, I'm going this way emotionally. And if other things can't walk with me or they're trying to get in my way, they're going to have to move. You're growing, you feel two different ways. You feel like you're not supposed to, and you feel like you should.
Mm-hmm.
The light says things in a certain way. It could be saying, your light and your shadow can both say, this is not for me. I'm moving on. They can both say it, but the way they say it is different. And that's what we need to recognize, because it's like what we were talking about earlier. You can know this is the end of this chapter for you.
Mm-hmm.
You can know that it's all going to be okay at the end. But the way that you get there is based on the way that you view it. Mm-hmm. And if you view it through chaos, or you view it through a certain way, through the shadow, you're going to have more struggle going through it. Mm-hmm. It doesn't mean that your shadow's not also saying, hey, it's time to go outside. I can go outside and run through this camera and run through all these things in here, break everything and get outside. Right. My light and shadow can both say, well, I'm going to go outside, but my shadow is going to say I'm going to go outside in a way that's going to cause chaos.
Right.
My light isn't going to say it in a way that's going to cause peace.
Yeah.
So that's the thing. It's not that you're like, the light isn't saying it. What's important to know is that discomfort comes when you are growing. It's just a sign of it. You allow yourself to feel more, see more of your true self, and you see yourself growing, but it's going to come with discomfort. My final words is you're going to have to move through that discomfort, and you choose to move through it in a way that makes you bigger. That's the key. If you're making yourself bigger as you go through these transitions, you will truly grow. Do not make yourself smaller from discomfort. You can feel discomfort. Don't make yourself smaller because to fit in, so then you don't feel that discomfort. Make yourself bigger after you feel discomfort, and you will continue to grow into your light.
Yes, I do agree with that. Yes, at the end of the day, you are growing a lot, and you've grown a lot. And we would like you to reflect on how much you've grown thus far, literally in all aspects, and be content, feel that joy. And then realize in what areas are you still keeping yourself small. And then encourage yourself in that, embolden yourself in that, because at the end of the day, you're destined for great things. And those great things are bigger than anything you could have ever imagined, but it's big enough for you to handle. And so in that, be mindful of who you are, be mindful of the energy that you carry and the people that you are meant to meet and to inspire and to show love to and to help grow in their areas. Because at the end of the day, yes, we may be growing a lot, but our growth isn't just for us. It's for the people behind you or in front of you that also can't see a certain aspect, or they keep running into the same brick wall. And if we really want to help them, if we really want to guide them, then we also have to be aware of how we are handling things on our path and on our journey. So be inspiring to the next person. Have your growth, have your level up moments, have your moments where you're small, and then don't be afraid to share that with the next person, because somebody may need your blueprint. Somebody may need somebody to be like, I see what you're going through. Maybe looking at it like this is how I experienced it. This is what helped me. May or may not help you, but how can we grow through it? That's all our community is looking for, is more people to encourage each other in that.
More perspectives.
And more perspectives. So keep growing. Keep doing what you're doing. Keep enlightening yourself. Keep becoming more conscious, accountable, and honest with the things that you are doing, the things that you are thinking and saying. Because first of all, most of all, we got to be honest with ourselves. Tell the truth to ourselves. Be honest that we've heard the truth the first time. And then we grow from there. So thank you all for listening in on.
Yeah, also. this might just lead to some weird segue, but follow me on this one. Don't get new panties, because your last panties were an image of what you thought you were. But emotionally, we keep growing. You're always going to keep outgrowing whatever panties you think you're going into. So just let yourself be emotionally naked. This is what it means to be bare.
Yeah. Don't keep constricting yourself and confining yourself. Yeah. Let that thing out.
Just because you find some bigger panties doesn't mean you're not eventually going to outgrow those. Don't give yourself constraints emotionally. Keep growing. Don't get the new panties.
Okay. That is the end of Cosmic Concepts. Thank you all for listening in. We hope that you all got something out of this, yes. Could think with us, could follow our little rabbit down wherever we were going. And yes, whenever you're watching this, day, night, evening, thank you for being here. Again, our first in-person event for Cosmic Concepts is Sunday.
Tomorrow.
May 18th.
Tomorrow. Well, that might be yesterday by the time this is out. But...
Oh, well, it's today.
Today?
Or it was yesterday. Who knows? Just know whenever this comes out, we may have already had it. Thank you all for listening. We love you. We hope to see you next time. And have a great life.